Hey guys, Dina here. Today I'm going to recreate this bumblebee gift tag. I love gift tags. They're super cute. And I'm going to be using this sweet honeybee stamp set that I created for ink and splatter. I'm going to use that little guy right there. And I'm going to use my honeycomb stencil. Now I created this stencil with a little fall off at the bottom just to create some interest in your projects, which is what I'm going to do for this gift tag. I'm going to utilize that portion of the stencil. So I'm going to be stamping my image with premium dye ink from Gina K. And I'm going to be using cardstock today instead of marker paper. So I'm going to have to stamp it at least 3 times just to get a good crisp image, because the cardstock seems to absorb the ink much quicker. So I want to get a nice dark image. The thing I love about the dye ink is that even though I'm going to let it dry for a little bit, I don't need to, but I'm going to let it sit while I work on some other parts of the project. So right now I'm going to ink blend my stencil, and I'm going to be using some distressed inks for this. I love the distressed inks because they're nice and creamy and you could get a good blend. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way around. I'll position my stencil in such a way that I was sure to get that little fall off at the bottom. Now I'm not worried about any overflow off the edges of it. I'm using mustard seed. I forgot to show you that before. But I'm not worried about any of the fall off of the ink at the bottom because I'm going to be cutting that out when I die cut the gift tag. So right now I'm just going around with some fairly light pressure with the mustard seed to get some good coverage. And it goes pretty quickly because, like I said, the distress inks are pretty creamy. And if you got a decent brush, it makes it easier. I have a couple of brushes that are just not good. I won't say which ones they are, but I can't get a good blend with them. So it's really important to have brushes that have really soft bristles, and then you can get a nice even blend. So I'm going to do the whole piece of paper where my stencil is, because even though I'm going to cut it, I'm going to still save the other part to use for something else. So there's the reveal, and there's a little fall off at the bottom. I love how that came out. Okay, and while that's drying, now I'm going to work on die cutting the whimsical flower die. This is also with our new release. It's a big flower, it's just for some whimsy for the bees. And this is the first time I'm using my magnetic plate for my intracut. I wasn't even sure how it was going to do, but I actually loved it. I have magnetic plates for other machines, and I just feel like they're super essential. So this works out great with the intracut. I'm die cut everything on white cardstock because I wanted to ink blend the center and keep the other components white. So I'm ink blending with the same mustard seed color that I used on the honeycomb stencil. And I'm going to add a little bit of wild honey to the edges to get some color variation. I've got my sticky mat on my Misty. I like to put it there. It keeps it nice and controlled for me, and it's not going to slip anywhere, and I don't have to fumble around for what to stick it to. And it's easier for me for when I have to turn it. You want to turn your images as often as you can to get a good even blend. I'm not blending this one too darkly in the center, keeping it a little bit lighter because I don't want it to be exactly as the honeycomb. I want there to be a little bit of contrast, even though the white petals were going to be between the honeycomb and the center of my flower. So I'm just going around with some wild honey on the edges. Nothing too dark. I don't want to take away from my bee. And then I die cut a piece of black cardstock with a gift tag die, also from Gina K. And now I'm going to die cut the ink blended honeycomb. And I want to position it so I get that fall off at the bottom. Cut perfectly. Oops, couldn't get that off the plate. Okay, so now I'm going to color my little bee. I set everything else aside. I'm going to color this little bee with some Copic markers. I will have a color chart on my blog of the Copics that I use, but I will also be showing you here. I like to start off with a lighter color. If you follow me at all, you know that I don't like to have very dark shadows in my images. A lot of people will start off with the darks. I don't do that because I want my images to be a little bit lighter. I don't want the shadows to overtake my images. I mean, it looks great on a lot of people's coloring, but for me, it's a personal preference, and I'm not a big fan of that. So I usually use 3 colors, and I work them up. I start with the lightest, and then I go to the second color, and then I'll blend it out a little bit to get rid of those rough edges. It just softens everything and blends really nicely. And like I said, I normally use marker paper, but today I'm using cardstock, and you can see that I'm still getting a really nice blend this way. The thing I like about using the cardstock, I mean, there's a couple of reasons. For a lot of people, it's very budget friendly. But also what it does, it can create some texture without much work. And because I'm doing a bee, I just thought it would be appropriate to have just a little bit of texture because they're normally fuzzy. And so now I'm going to work on my blacks of the bee, the black stripes. I don't start off using black. I actually almost never use black. Black is very stark and a very unnatural color, really, when you're trying to create an image and blend. So what I like to do is I like to use the blue violets of the Copic markers, and I work that up to a darker color. So I'm using the 3 blue violets to start getting a darker stripe, but then I am going to come in with a cool gray, which is going to be very dark, but that's only going to be for the shadow part of it. When you use colors not normally meant for, like, let's say these black stripes, you would think automatically you would do a black stripe, but if you use other colors and you add them, it kind of like pops it out and makes it more alive. So as you can see, I brought in the cool gray. I did do a little bit darker. There's my kitty. We got a new kitty, and she has discovered my studio. So now I'm going to use the very pale blues to just highlight the wings of the bee. The blue is just going to make it pop. It's a color that's not on the rest of the card, so it just kind of draws your eye right into the bee. I use only 2 colors for this because they're pale and it's going to be an easy blend, and I'm only doing it towards the bottom of the wings. Okay, and that's about it. That's an easy color. I'm going to add a little bit of highlight with my gel pen. I always do that. and then I'm going to die cut them out. So I'm using my magnetic plate again, and this is the first time that I'm doing these intricate little cuts and I'm not using tape, so I was a little concerned, but you can see they came out perfectly. So if you're considering a magnetic plate, if you have an intricate and you're considering a magnetic plate, or if you have other machines and you don't have a magnetic plate, it might be a good idea for you to think about getting one. I'll put a link for this particular one, but here it is. Look how great that came out, and that was without tape. Okay, so now I'm going to assemble everything together. I've got all my components ink blended and colored, and I'm going to put everything together. I'm going to start off with my big daisy. I'm just adding a little tape runner here, and I'm going to use some glue for the rim. You don't even have to use this part, but I just thought it was super cute. Because it's so tiny, I'm just dotting the glue around. And then so my kitty got in the way again, so I just decided to put it on there. But anyway, you can see that I centered it on the edges. Okay, and then I have my 2 gift tags. And I'm going to decide I want to put this on my gift tag, but I only want to use half of it. So here I am trying to figure out which petals or how many petals I want to cut off. So I'm lining it up. I want to keep those stitches, so I'm lining it up to see exactly where to cut it. And I'm just freehand cutting, holding my breath and freehanding. Okay, that didn't come out too bad. I'm going to save that other piece, but I want to use the piece with the little holes because I think it's super cute. And I'm lining it up against the stitches. Like I said, I want to keep those stitches. And again, I'm going to add the tape runner to it because I don't want this part popped up. So I'm lining it up, and just as it happens to be, the yellows lined up with the yellows and the stitches are visible. So that made me pretty happy. Okay, so now I want to put these 2 tags together, but I don't want them flopping around. So I'm going to use a piece of adhesive foam to hold them together on an angle. I'm going to put this off to the side. And then I'm going to add some glue. You certainly don't have to add glue. I'm just doing it as insurance because if I don't place the top tag properly, I'm going to have trouble repositioning it. So this gives me a little leeway to reposition things for a second or two if I need to. But that worked out just fine. Okay, so now I'm going to figure out where I want to put my bee. I still want to see part of the fall off, and I don't want to cover too much of the flower. And I'm going to allow him to overhang the top gift tag. So here again, I'm using some foam tape because I want to prop him up. And I added some glue because you can see I'm trying to get him positioned just properly. That looks pretty good. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for the sentiment. The sentiment is thinner, and I want to make sure I get some foam all across it. So I'm going to use these tiny thin strips here. If you don't have thin strips, that's fine. You can cut your squares or cut your sheets as thin as you need to. I like these little strips for this reason, though. It gets in little small spaces. Okay, I'm just trying to get an idea before I pull everything off where I'm going to put it. Again, I'm going to use the glue also just to help me position it properly. And there, that worked out pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to use some baker's twine. I'm going to use 2 colors. I've got black and I've got yellow, and I'm going to tie them together just to be cohesive with the gift tag. I put a little tape on the end so that my string doesn't fall all over the place, because my kitty will love to get that. Okay, and I'm going to make a little slip knot through the hole. And then I'm going to tie a bow. There's so many ways to add string and ribbon and whatnot to your gift tags. For this particular design, I'm making a bow. I had to fuss with it just a little bit just to get the bow right. And there, I think I've got it. And there it is. So I hope you've liked this project today. If you have, consider giving us a like and following us and subscribing. Hit the notify bell so that you can see other videos. And thank you, and have a really great day. And we'll see you next time.